New details tonight on a tragic train crash in East Greenwich that claimed the life of a teenage girl over the weekend.
Eyewitness News reporter Madeline Wright is learning more about the victim. She joins us now live from West Warwick with the West Bay Mobile Newsroom.
Mike Shannon, students here at West Warwick High School are still in shock. They're trying to wrap their heads around how one of their classmates could be taken from them so soon. West Warwick High School students went back to class with heavy hearts. Their 16-year-old classmate struck and killed by an Amtrak train in East Greenwich. The principal notified parents Monday morning.
I was sad and I was crying, and everyone in my family was crying, and it was really sad.
The teenager died on the elevated tracks near King Street around 2:30 Sunday afternoon. Amtrak declined to comment on what led up to the incident, but neighbors say the victim was walking on or near the tracks with her sister.
They were walking by the house here first, and my father-in-law saw him walk by and didn't think much of it because, just two kids walking by. And, 10 minutes later, they hear the screams.
The train had 378 people on board when it struck the teen on its way from Boston to D.C. Amtrak says their trains top out at 125 miles an hour, and it takes several miles to stop if an engineer spots a person on the tracks.
I'm sorry for the girl's family, and I couldn't imagine what they're going through and all her friends right now.
Amtrak is not identifying the victim due to her age. As for the victim's classmates, all they have now are memories.
She was always really nice, and she was always nice to everyone, and she was a really funny girl, and she just would always try to make everyone happy. She's just a really nice girl, and I miss her a lot.
This isn't the first time someone's been hit and killed by a train in East Greenwich. Coming up new at 6 o'clock, more on last year's deadly accident and what residents want done about it. Live in West Warwick with the West Bay Mobile Newsroom. Madeline Wright, Eyewitness News.
School and community are in mourning. They're mourning the tragic loss of a teenage girl who was killed over the weekend by a train in East Greenwich. And new at 6 tonight, we have more details on another death that happened in the same area last year. From the West Bay Mobile Newsroom, Eyewitness News reporter Madeline Wright is live in West Warwick with more details.
Mike, things just weren't the same here at West Warwick High School today. Students are devastated over their classmate's sudden death. A somber mood Monday at West Warwick High School. Students mourning their 16-year-old classmate struck and killed by an Amtrak train.
Everyone was really emotional and crying, and some people were trying not to cry, but they just didn't.
The teen died on the elevated tracks near King Street in East Greenwich around 2:30 Sunday afternoon.
Everybody should learn from it, and the kids should stay off the damn tracks.
This isn't the first deadly train accident near this area in East Greenwich. MBTA Transit Police say a person walking on the tracks was struck and killed by a train in November 2015.
It's fast. I think it does 80, 90 miles an hour past here, if not faster.
Residents say this gate leading up to the tracks is often unlocked. They say more security is needed.
I've always said that there wasn't very good fences around here. There's 1,000 different ways to access these tracks.
Data from the Federal Railroad Administration shows 4 people were struck and killed by trains on Rhode Island since 2015. The West Warwick High School student is now the 5th.
She's just a really nice girl, and I miss her a lot.
So far, the community has raised more than $5,000 on GoFundMe.com to pay for the victim's funeral. Live in West Warwick with the West Bay Mobile Newsroom. Madeline Wright, Eyewitness
story
News.
right now out of Iraq, where an effort is underway to push ISIS fighters out of Mosul.
Iraqi government and Kurdish forces, backed by U.S.-led coalition air and ground support, launched coordinated military operations overnight. ABC's Alex Marquette is there now with the very latest.
The operation to retake Mosul was announced by Iraq's Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi just before 2 a.m. local time overnight. As dawn broke here, that's when the fighting started in earnest, with the Iraqi and Kurdish forces raining mortars, artillery, and rockets down onto the ISIS positions in and outside of Mosul. There are an estimated 30,000 Iraqi and Kurdish forces involved in this operation to retake Mosul, backed up by Americans and other countries, including special forces that will serve as advisors and calling in airstrikes. Throughout the day, we heard heavy fighting, including machine gun fire, indicating that the two sides were engaging each other. We also saw large plumes of black and white smoke, not just from the artillery and the bombs that were landing on the ISIS positions, but also from the oil and tire fires that we believe ISIS was setting in order to provide themselves some cover. There are an estimated 5,000 to 6,000 ISIS militants inside Mosul, which is the biggest city that they've ever taken in Iraq or Syria. It's their last foothold in Iraq, and the belief is they will not go down without a fight. But the question now is whether they will mount a full defense of the city or whether they will recognize the force that they are up against now and somehow escape into Syria, where ISIS still has a significant amount of land, and live to fight another day. Alex Marquardt, ABC News, near Mosul in northern Iraq.
ABC2.
0 hour for the liberation of Mosul has finally arrived.
The hour of victory has arrived and operations for the liberation of Mosul have begun. I announce today the start of these heroic operations to free you from the terror and the oppression of Daesh, and God willing, soon we will meet on Mosul soil to celebrate liberation and your salvation, and we will live once again with all our religions and sects together.
Mosul is the second largest city in Iraq, located some 400 kilometers north of Baghdad. The city fell into the hands of Daesh in June 2014 during a lightning offensive that plagued Iraq's west and northwest. Around 60,000 Iraqi forces from the army, federal police, counterterrorism forces, and popular mobilization units, as well as Kurdish Peshmerga fighters, are involved in the operation. Around 6,000 terrorists and some 1.5 million civilians are estimated to be inside the city.
The mission of our forces is to rescue hundreds of thousands of civilians living under siege in Mosul, while purging enemies' posts and bases of terrorists. The main aim of this operation is to liberate the people of Nineveh.
On the first day of the operation, the Iraqi Army's 9th Division managed to liberate several villages east of Mosul. The key district of Al-Nimrud, southeast of Mosul, was also liberated. It's now being used as base to coordinate future attacks in the plains of Nineveh. Kurdish Peshmerga forces have also cleared a number of villages northeast of Mosul. For the Iraqi forces, the challenges at hand are first ensuring the safety of over 1 million Mosul residents used by Daesh terrorists as human shields, and second, the illegal presence of Turkish forces east of Mosul. Nevertheless, the advances made so far have been very swift, leaving many to believe that the Iraqi forces are planning to end this battle much sooner than anticipated. Ataf Ahmed, Press TV, Baghdad.
Springfield police arrested a man who they say tried to sell a stolen dirt bike to undercover police officers. Springfield Police Sergeant John Delaney told 22 News 19-year-old Wilfredo Rosario was arrested Friday night after he met the officers with the stolen bike in the North End. The bike was stolen from Holyoke on October 8th. According to Delaney, officers set up the meeting with Rosario after the owner found the stolen bike advertised for sale on Facebook.
They were supposed to be attending Ashura, one of their holiest days. But this Wednesday, many Shiites in Kabul are mourning the dead. This was after at least one gunman opened fire on worshippers at Kabul's Kate Saki shrine on Tuesday evening. The wounded are being treated at hospitals across the city.
We were worshipping at the shrine when a man wearing a security uniform entered the compound and opened fire on people. It was a horrific situation and everyone was trying to escape.
The attacker was killing everyone and he shot me on my leg. While I was hugging my little son, I begged him not to kill my child.
The child survived. There have been conflicting reports about the number of attackers involved. A government spokesman also said there was another attack later in the evening at a different location in Kabul. The threat level during Ashura was considered high, so many are surprised that more wasn't done to protect the worshippers.
After the attack, very well-equipped security forces reached the spot. I wish they would have used their weapons before the attack happened. That could have saved many lives.
In a statement, the Islamic State group have claimed responsibility for Tuesday night's attack.
Well, let's cross over to Zagreb in Croatia, joined by political commentator Mr. Navid Naz. Navid, a pleasure to have you on. Looking at this situation now, we see so many things going back and forth, especially in dealing with Aleppo. And now we have actually Vladimir Putin basically saying, President Putin saying that France is just basically trying to add fuel to the flame, because he knew from the beginning, that the French knew from the beginning that, of course, the Russians would veto that. How do you see this, France's role in all of this in dealing with the Syrian conflict?
Well, I think that Putin is being overly generous in his assessment of France as not wanting to play an active role in what's going on in the ground in Syria. They may not be pursuing an active role when it comes to ending the conflict and when it comes to seeking a peaceful resolution, but they have certainly been playing an active role in Syria for the past 5 years. Along with the US and the UK and Turkey, France has been one of the major NATO powers that has been arming, giving political support and economic support to the quote-unquote rebels, both on the ground in Syria and in among rebel groups, particularly Muslim Brotherhood affiliated groups in France and in Europe in general. So this is not like a situation where France has been kind of like aloof, lackadaisical bystander, and they don't want to get involved. They've been involved. They've been neck deep now for 5.5 years. They just don't want to bring this conflict to any kind of resolution that is not going to have a favorable ending for them and for the NATO powers in general, and that means they want the current government, the quote-unquote Assad regime, out.
Do you see, Navid, do you see the situation exacerbating? Because not that long ago we saw a press conference out of London with the U.S. Secretary of State and the UK foreign minister, basically saying, foreign secretary, basically saying it appears that they want to put more pressure on Russia, more pressure on Syria. And it seemed some threatening words there about if Aleppo falls, let the Russians know that it does not mean that the war is over. Your assessment of this latest war of words, do you see this making the situation worse, exacerbating in general?
It's not going to make it better. When you put things like that on the table, you're leaving yourself with two options. One is to carry through with your threats should such an eventuality happen. In other words, should Aleppo be liberated by the Syrian Arab Army, you carry through with your threats, or you eat your words and don't carry through with your threats. Now, the latter option is obviously the best for the vast majority of the world and the peoples of the world, because the first option, carrying through with those threats, involves the possibility of the armed forces of the two biggest nuclear powers in the world duking it out on the ground and in the air in Syria. And that, I mean, I guess I don't need to, go into details about where that could lead.
Right,
but,
indeed. Okay.
Yes.
All
yeah.
right. All right. Yeah, very frightening situation on the ground there. Thank you so much for being with us out of Zagreb, political commentator, Mr. Navid.
Service is now one of the agencies providing support after a Molotov cocktail bomb was thrown inside the Orange County GOP headquarters over the weekend. Officials are still looking for clues, but as CBS North Carolina's Michael Hyland reports, support is coming from all over.
Police are still out here tonight keeping a watch over things. Even with all the damage here, volunteers have also been stopping by today trying to help out in the final days before the election. Investigators are still trying to determine who threw a Molotov cocktail into the county's Republican Party office. When the governor stopped by earlier, he called it unimaginable. Even amid the destruction, members of Orange County's Republican Party say they won't be deterred.
We will not be intimidated. Like I said, this is a terrorist act, and like I said, we will not give in to terrorism.
Police got a call Sunday morning from someone who could smell smoke and saw this spray painted on the building: Nazi Republicans leave town or else. The caller's voice has been altered to protect his privacy.
Someone has firebombed through the window the Republican Party up here beside me.
The governor came by Monday afternoon to see the damage. He questioned how seriously local police took this at first.
That there was some time span between the time this actually occurred and when the public was notified. In fact, some people were actually found out about it through Facebook.
An initial post on the Hillsborough Police Department's Facebook page described this as vandalism.
This is not an act of vandalism. This is an assault on our democratic process.
The police chief says he does consider this to be serious and is working with state and federal investigators to find who did it. They say it happened sometime between midnight and 8:54 a.m. Sunday. Just as people were finding out about this, people at this Democratic campaign office in Carrboro found graffiti in a nearby parking lot. Signs were damaged, and the phrase "hang the capitalists" could be seen.
I think a lot of people were concerned because both instances happened early Sunday morning. They were obviously very antagonistic.
Carrboro police say they've seen this here before and don't think it's connected.
Regardless if this is a Republican headquarters or Democratic or independent, there's no excuse of any type of violence and intimidation toward our democratic process.
The FBI has sent evidence from here to its lab in Quantico, Virginia for a closer look. In the meantime, party officials are working to get into a new office just down the street from here in the next few days. In Hillsborough, Michael Highland, CBS North Carolina.